So I made videos on pros and cons in living in apartments or a house, and I've made a video pros and cons on building a home. I'm sure I've done other pros and cons videos, but today I want to talk about pros and cons to buying a house, to remodel, and to live in. We've lived in apartments, we've built a house, and now we've bought this house, which we need to remodel, and we have to a certain extent. We bought this house about 5.5 years ago in the suburbs of Southwest Florida. We were paying rent and it was increasing, and thank God we found this house when we did. We got a great deal. It was a foreclosed house, and so we bought it, and it needed work, but the bones of the house were good, and that was really important. You start seeing cracks on the walls, and the house is settling and there's cracks in the floor. There's something to look at. Looking for a home can be profitable if you plan on selling in the future, but not only that, it allows you to get into a home size you want and the neighborhood you want that maybe you normally would not be able to afford. So one of the first things you need to do is get pre-approved for a home, even if it's a new home, if you're building a home or to remodel a home, because this will allow you to know how much home you can afford. Now they will tell you you can afford, let's say, $100,000. Do not buy a $100,000 house if they say that's what you could afford. Try to get like a $75,000 house, because you will have to fix something, and something is always very expensive. In our case, in this house, we were just like super lucky that the roof wasn't leaking yet. The AC was still running, even though it was 20-some years old. Air conditionings here in Florida last 10 to 15 years. It was like a miracle this air conditioning was still working. We knew sooner or later it was going to bite the dust. We knew that we would need the money to replace the air conditioning, and we actually just did that. Now our roof, it's time now, but they want like $8,000-9,000 to replace the roof. So that's the pros and cons of getting a used house. Get into a nice house in a nice neighborhood that you normally wouldn't, but you will have to fix the house, and hopefully you're very handy and that you can do a lot of the work yourself, fix it up and spruce it up the way you want. But there's some things that you may not be able to do. Even if you do things yourself, make sure if you need a permit, check to see if you need a permit, because you do not want to be doing things without a permit. Some towns are more strict than others. You could be fined up the gazoo, and you do not want to get into trouble with the city. Do your homework, ask the city, do I need a permit for this and that, and make sure you get it done right. So what's great about buying a used home is it's usually pretty affordable. You can find a foreclosed or a bank-owned home or something like that. A wheel and deal. Try to get the lowest price possible, because you will have to spend some money on that house. Hopefully you can do it over time, one job at a time. You might think that you'd be able to do one job at a time, but sometimes your roof leaks and your AC goes out at the same time, and then you're like, oh my God, $9,000 and $8,000, $17,000. That's why I say if the bank says you can afford the $100,000, get a $75,000 house, because you do not want to be stuck with your roof leaking or your air conditioning not working and you live in Florida, or your heat not working and you live in the north and it's middle of the winter. Check the taxes. How much are the taxes in your area? How about insurance? Taxes down here are pretty good, but the insurance is very high because of hurricanes. Up north or anywhere else in the country, check to see, am I in a flood zone? They may think or say that you're not in a flood zone, but then it floods. You want to see if your insurance will cover that. You might have insurance and you're thinking, oh, I'm covered for everything, but then an earthquake comes and they're like, well, you didn't have earthquake insurance. And earthquake insurance in a non-earthquake area, or an area that earthquake doesn't happen very often, is like very cheap. Back in Northeast Ohio where we lived, we didn't have a whole lot of earthquakes, but there was a couple, and then we were between 3 and 4, and some of the houses, their basements cracked. Thankfully, nothing happened to our house, but some people's did, and if they didn't have insurance, that can cost thousands of dollars to fix. Down here in Florida, you want sinkhole insurance. Where I live, we don't have a lot of sinkholes in this particular neighborhood, but doesn't mean this house can't go into a sinkhole tomorrow. We're on sand. So I have sinkhole insurance. I mentioned this in my other video, and it doesn't matter if you're renting or building or whatever you're doing. Make sure your area has internet connection, and what are your choices. And check with the utility companies and how much it's going to cost. Now, one of the things I found out when we were building a home, especially down here in Florida, and check I'm sure it's the same everywhere in this country. If you have well water, are the neighbors having any trouble? Or do you want to make sure you have a house with city water? For us, I've talked to too many people here in Southwest Florida that have well water, and their pipes are just like, they have to replace them after like 10 years. People say, oh, I have no problems with my well water, so maybe it just depends, but I wasn't gonna take a chance. So we made sure we got city water, and I'm so happy we did. We do have a septic tank. There's not sewers here. Actually, they're just starting to bring sewers into the city. I don't know if they'll ever come down our street, but if they do, I wonder how much that will cost. But if something happens to my septic tank, I understand it could be about $10,000, $15,000 to rip it out and replace it if you had to do that. That's the downfall of older homes. You do not want to buy The Money Pit. Have you seen that movie? It's an older movie. Very good movie. Watch it. It's funny, but it's not funny if it's your house and you're throwing money into it and you just can't get the house to how you want it. Definitely get a home inspector. It's worth every penny. If you're buying from a realtor or even from an owner, you'll either want the realtor to check. They'll do check with the title agency, or you could check with the title agency yourself to make sure there's no liens on the house. The other thing you might want to consider is looking at brand new houses. The tiniest ones you could find that you think that might be in your price range. Let's say it's $100,000, a brand new house, but you know there's no repairs. You don't need to do any repairs because it's brand new and it's under warranty for a certain amount of time. It's $100,000. But let's say you're going to buy a used house for $75,000. Like I was saying, don't spend $100,000 the bank says you can afford. But you see the air conditioner is old, the roof is old, there's a lot of work to be done in the house. You may want to spend $100,000 on the brand new house, knowing that it's under warranty and you don't need to be putting money in. You could just move right in and not worry about putting it, all the expenses of putting all the expenses in the house. And you may end up spending more money on a used home than buying a brand new one in the long run. Again, in our case, it was a miracle that we bought it at the bottom, and I know house prices have gone through the roof all over this country. So you'll have to compare and do your homework. I can't tell you if you should build a home or if you should buy a used home or if you buy a brand new house. You're going to have to look at how much you could spend, and then you have to look at, is it cheaper to buy a brand new house? Same with like a used car. Sometimes you can get a great new used car and you're fine, but then you end up buying a used car and it's trouble. You need brakes, you need radiator. I mean, that car ends up costing you more than if you just bought a cheap new car and made your monthly payments. So you have to really compare and look. It's different for everybody and everywhere and everyone in each situation. I'm just giving you some tips and ideas that I've experienced. The nice thing about remodeling your own home is you can definitely get everything the way you want it. As long as you like the structure of the home, the floor plan, you could put in your new floors, the roof that you want, the air conditioning you want, the color of the walls, the cabinets, if you're going to replace the cabinets. But you could also do that with a brand new home that's semi-finished, and they will ask you how you want to finish it. You go with less expensive materials or pay more and upgrade. So just do all your homework if you're looking for a home. It's not really better one way or the other. It's just what your preferences are and how much something is and how much money you have. Sometimes you have no option but to buy an older home if you want the size and the neighborhood. And you have to just figure out how to fix it as you go, even if it ends up costing you more in the long run, because that's all the bank will loan you or all the cash that you have. And with house loans, nowadays you could check around very easily with the internet. So if you need a loan, make sure you do your homework on that as well. If you have the cash, that's even better, but most people don't. So the one thing about remodel home, it's just going to be a lot of work and it's going to be some stress because you have to do things. But sometimes it's exciting, just like when you're building a house, it's exciting, especially the first time you do something like that, and you don't mind it so much. But if you're not looking for a little stress and a little excitement, you may want to try just to find a smaller, brand new home under warranty by a super builder, check reviews, and just move right in. You can check with realtors, and of course, even if the realtor says a builder is great, then do your homework online and see what everybody else is saying. See what the other customers are saying. Because everybody's saying that builder's a loser, don't use them. And then you have to question the realtor. Is she getting a kickback? I don't know. But if you see that what she says is true or he says is true, that everybody's saying this builder is great, then okay, this is pretty safe as you can get. Not 100% guarantee on anything in this life. You did your research, you did the best you can, and whatever happens after that. So don't stress any more than you have to. So there's pros and cons in anything you do in life, from where you live and what you live and what you do in a career, if you go to college, if you don't, if you start a business, if you don't, if you get married or if you don't, if you have kids or if you don't. I can go on and on. There's pros and cons for everything in life. So homework, research is my recommendation for whatever you decide to do in your life. It just makes life a little more pleasant, a little less stressful. You may want to do it all, and that's okay. You can rent, for a little while in your life, build a house, get a remodel. Who knows, maybe we'll live in an RV and a boat, and maybe not. I don't know. Life's an adventure. I like experiencing a little bit of everything, and that's my plan. We'll see where it goes. Sometimes life has its own plans for you. Just try to enjoy the ride. Well, thanks for watching. Thumbs up if you like this video. Please share with your friends and family on social media, and we'll see you next time.